All right, another episode on the. I haven't told about this deal yet. That's the name of the podcast in English. It's usually a podcast in Hebrew, but I'm excited to interview Coach Trevor McGregor. And it's a very delicate time in Israel. And before, I would give like a general background. So people before the 7th of October were kind of dreaming on achieving goals. And I'm talking about for my audience, which is real estate investors who want to make money or make profits in the real estate in the US and dream to make a living doing that. And they have the struggle, but they have the dream. And once the 7th of October hit, me and the rest of the Israelis were dreaming of what were on the process, kind of forgotten the excitement, enthusiastic about it, and it felt like it meaningless. And I reached out to you, and you were kindly to come and share your experience and help us and help the audience to find it again. That's kind of our goal. And before we jump in how to do it, maybe you have a short introduction who you are.
Well, thank you so much, Rafi. I mean, I've known you for years. In fact, we've even shared the stage together over in America. And it's just awesome to be here with you today. And I want to start off by obviously sending my thoughts and prayers to everyone that's going through a tough time and has, had to navigate the craziness and, the uncertainty and all of that stuff that goes with it. But to give you a little sense of who I am, my name is Coach Trevor McGregor. I'm also known as Coach T, right? And I am here for one reason only, and that is to help people navigate, the challenging times and literally remember that, we're all here on purpose and with purpose to move through challenges, move through struggle, move through adversity, and, become bigger, better, faster, stronger, right? And so what I'm going to share with you today is a little bit about my story, hopefully a little bit about, mindset and strategy that can help you to navigate where you're at, because I'm also a real estate investor. In fact, I started investing in real estate back in 2003. So that kind of ages me a little bit, Rafi, but I started investing in real estate in 2003 because I went through adversity before that, where I was working in corporate. I was working for a large hospitality group. I was the executive director of operations. And, I was there for a very long time, and I invested in an expansion plan with those, folks, and put in all of my savings, all of, my retirement savings. I even convinced my own parents to take out a 6-figure second mortgage on the family home. And I dumped all of that money into this expansion of the hospitality group. And for the first couple of years, it went well until we were expanding way too fast. We literally were going across 5 major cities in Canada, which is where I'm from. And ultimately, to make a long story short, I lost all of that money. So there I was in my early 30s. I was broke. I wasn't sure how I was going to pay back my failed loans. I wasn't sure how I was going to tell my parents that I had just lost all that money. And what does anyone do when they're down and out? Well, I hired a coach. And that coach said to me, Trevor, what's happened to you is unfortunate, but you're still a young man. You got to get up and dust yourself off. And he said, have you ever thought of how you're going to make the money back? And I said, I don't know. And that's when he said, have you ever thought of investing in real estate? And I said, real estate? I don't know too much about real estate. And he said, well, you just got to really realize you can use other people's money, buy some properties, fix them up, refinance them or rent them or sell them, and then rinse and repeat. So Rafi, that's exactly what I did. In 2003, I started to get into real estate, but I also started to get into personal growth. So it was really the combination of becoming a real estate investor and then studying under people like Tony Robbins, right? Where I started to take the action and started to condition my mindset for success. And in a relatively short amount of time, not only did I build a beautiful cash flowing portfolio, right? I paid off all my failed loans. I even paid my parents back. And then I started to coach other people on how to leverage real estate and mindset to explode the results. That's when I went to work for Tony Robbins, and I had the pleasure of working with and for Tony for over half a decade as one of his top coaches. In fact, he'd give me all of his real estate clients. And so I've continued to dive into, continuing to help people, continuing to build my portfolio with apartment buildings all over America, self-storage in Key West, Florida, agricultural land in Colorado. We bought a couple of resorts in Costa Rica. And where I am today, I'm actually Canadian, but I'm coming to you from Australia. We've even invested in a modular home building company down under. So I don't say that to beat on my chest. I say it that we all go through adversity. And as we go through this adversity, we build tremendous muscle to pick ourselves up and ask, okay, who do I need to be? And how do I need to show up to go forward? Because if we're just stuck in the mud, it can feel, very daunting. It can feel lonely. It can feel like, is this ever going to change? And so my job here today is to really help the listener to really identify where they're at, see it as it is, and then figure out what they need to do to skyrocket forward. And that's my story. I'll throw it over to you.
Oh, amazing story. I also, I met you actually helping and coaching other real estate great investors like Mark Kenny was my mentor. And also
yes.
Best and ever, I forgot his name. I think
Joe Fairless.
Joe Fairless, yeah.
Joe Fairless.
Sorry, Joe, for not remembering your name, but yeah, he's gone from. I remember he started like any others, and he built like $1 billion worth of company, right? So, and
that's right. Yeah,
you were coaching him.
Yeah, Joe is one of my favorite clients. Yeah, and Mark Kenny and so many more. But Joe went from owning 4 single family homes in Texas. Right. And those homes, Rafi, were worth about $60,000 a piece. He owned 4 of them, and he figured out that he really wanted to scale. So what he did is he started investing in apartment buildings. And fast forward to today, he now has over $2.7 billion with a B, $2.7 billion in assets under management. And he did that by conditioning his mindset and then getting to work and doing the right things in the right order, at the right times, and for the right reasons. What do you think of that?
Amazing. And so, but let's go. But I think so right now people feel, and I remember the first week I was reading the news all day. I was seeing in the television, we felt like there is no security anywhere. We felt like insecure because, it's like somebody intrude your house and you feel like, and we were feeling like the pain of losing people that and suddenly, and I had scheduled an hour talking with the seller. I remember that, and I jumped on the call and I was like, it's meaningless, right? I didn't feel the passion. It was gone, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do? Because I was able to shift fast, but there are still people who are struggle in that feeling. That's called insecurity.
That's it. Because it's part of the, part of the journey that we're on, really, if you understand it. And this body of work comes from Tony Robbins, and I love sharing it, is he says that there's 6 things, that are really driving us. He calls them the 6 human needs, right? But before we talk about the 6 human needs, we got to remember that all of our behavior, whether it's conscious or subconscious, is driven by just 3 things. And those 3 things that drive us are our beliefs, our values, and our rules. So if we think about what happened, to so many people, is you had your beliefs, your values, and your rules violated, right? And ultimately is literally becomes, the elephant in the room, where everything else that you've been working on, everything else you've been striving to build, everything else you wanted to be, do, or have, kind of goes on the back burner as you struggle to navigate things. Because when we go and apply this with the 6 human needs, the number one need that we all have, Rafi, is the need for certainty. That is to feel safe. That is to know that, our families are safe. That's to know that our homes are safe. That's to know that our businesses are safe, that we could go out there as real estate investors and continue to invest, in beautiful companies like yours, or take our net worth to higher levels. So the minute that first human need is violated, where we're not sure if we can remain certain, we contract, we start to, play small, we start to shrink because, you go from having certainty 1 minute to next thing you know, there's chaos all around us. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's what happened. So how do you shift from that? What do you do?
Well, again, let me go through all the other 5 needs, and then I'm going to give you an actual process to help anybody make that shift when we start to lose certainty. Because you got to understand that if certainty is need number 1, need number 2 is variety, right? That's where, we can't just be certain about everything. We also need to find variety. So for real estate investors, right, or business owners or entrepreneurs, it's really through the sport of business or real estate that we have tremendous variety. We could go buy apartment buildings. We could go buy, any type of property over there, or maybe in America or anywhere else on the planet. So ultimately, we have to find that certainty again, that real estate is a piece of variety that can give us access to different deals, different economies of scale, different, timelines in terms of how long we're going to be in those deals, different types of cash flow and value add opportunities. And so we've got to really remember that variety and getting back up and dusting ourselves off, even if it's hard, we've got to really double down, because that's going to give us more certainty. Does that make sense?
So what you're saying is the opposite of what our mechanism is to stay. We want to protect ourselves. We want to stay in that because we play safe. Actually, in order to get a certainty again, is to go back and try to achieve what we wanted before, kind of fake it until we make it.
Yes, it is. And it's not for the faint of heart. And I'm not saying it's easy, but if you look at the high performers, the people that, face adversity, there's a great quote in Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, where he says that adversity brings with it the seed of opportunity, right? Adversity brings with it the seed of opportunity. That means when you go through a tough time, the universe is testing you to see if you're going to, fall, or if you're going to get up, dust yourself off, like I did when I lost all of my certainty, when I lost all that money back in the day. And I had to embrace variety to really get up, dust myself off and say, all right, I've got to keep on going, because I had a wife at the time, I had a family, I had bills to pay. And ultimately, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So that's need number 2. The third need is really what we call significance. Significance. So if we're driven by number 1, certainty, number 2, variety, number 3 is significant. And I think as business owners or investors or entrepreneurs, we get a lot of significance by pooling our resources together, with great investors like yourself, to go out there and feel significant that we're putting our capital to work, that we're creating beautiful homes or beautiful apartment buildings for tenants to live with their families. So I can assure you that if you want more certainty, you've got to embrace variety, and you've got to embrace the significant opportunities that real estate can give you. And that takes us to need number 4 of the 6 human needs, which is connection. And I love this one, Rafi, because, we're human beings. And it's times like this where if you're alone, you feel like alone. You feel like an island. You feel like, oh my God, I'm never, ever going to embrace, life the way it was before all this craziness started to happen. But the beautiful thing is when you connect with other real estate investors, other like-minded people, other entrepreneurs, you start to come back to center, and you start to feel like, you're not alone, that there's other people trying to navigate what everyone else there is trying to navigate. But if you talk to this person and talk to this person and come into Rafi's inner circle and listen to this podcast, listen to the show, you start to really understand that we're all better together, right? We're better together. I'm better with Rafi. Rafi's better with Trevor, and we're better with the listener. So if we've got the need for certainty, variety, significance, and connection, there's only 2 more. Because need number 5 is just so delicious, Rafi, because it's the need for growth. The need for growth. We're like plants. And if a plant isn't growing, ultimately what's happening to it? It's dying. We don't want to die. We don't even want to survive. We want to thrive. So we've got to embrace that desire to be more certain. And we get it through variety. We get it through significance. We get it through connection, and we get it through growth. And that takes us to the 6th of the 6 human needs, which is the cloth I'm cut from, and I believe you're cut from as well, because I know we've shared the stage together, as I mentioned before, in America. And need number 6 is contribution. Contribution. You've got to ask yourself, what's bigger than yourself? What's your legacy? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? What do you want to have? And we know that if you come from a place of contribution, right? Maybe you're contributing your time, your money, your knowledge, your energy. But I'm telling you, if you really, really, really want to get more certainty, you've got to embrace those 5 other things, because it also leads to higher levels of what? Fulfillment. And at the end of the day, that's what we're after. We want the certainty, the variety, the significance, the connection, the growth, and the contribution. But all of that has to lead us to what I call, higher levels of fulfillment. And I believe that real estate is a wonderful vehicle to help people achieve their 6 human needs. What do you think?
Wow, I haven't thought about it, but I feel like every time you said one of them, I felt like, yeah, that's what I feel, right? And I think what helped me that the first week to get up was that I felt like if I'm in this in the same state of mind, probably there's somebody else at that. So I will reach out and see what's going on. And then I remembered that I have a mission to help people. Where is that mission? I can't go and stay with, how do you say, very sad. I have responsibility. I took on myself a mission. I gotta see what's going on. I gotta help people. And once I started to do actions, even though it was hard for me at the beginning, I remember I mumbled a lot at the first webinar I did. But that helped me because the contribution to help people, I felt significant. I felt like I'm going out of it.
There's connection, there's significance, there's variety, there's growth, there's contribution. There's so much beauty in what you just shared. And I'm telling you, it's not easy, because what's going on around you. So when we look around and look at the news and all of the beautiful people that have been affected so terribly, it can be hard to say, well, how can I focus on myself or my family or real estate when there's chaos going around, right? But I have a core belief that, there's a great quote, and it comes from Jim Rohn, who was Tony Robbins' coach. And he had this great quote that says, it's not the winds that blow on us that will determine where we end up. It's the set of the sail. And I just love that quote. He says, it's not the winds that blow on us that will determine where we end up. It's the set of the sail. And you people, my friends, have a lot of crazy wind blowing on you. There's no question that the winds are blowing like they've never blown before, but it's not those winds that will determine where everyone ends up if they set a better sail. And that's what I'm here to help you do, is set a better sail. And Rafi's trying to help you set a better sail and catch that wind and see things through a different lens, right? To really help yourself get up, dust yourself off, stay safe, and then ask, all right, how can I find, a way to fulfill my destiny? And that's where we really are going to kind of tee this up for your listeners, Rafi, where I've got a 4-step process that can take anybody that's down and out, or anybody that's depressed, or anybody that's fearful, or anybody that is literally wondering, is the sun ever going to shine again, and help them to see it through a different lens. But before I share those 4 steps, I want to share what I call how other people that I've coached all over the world, because I don't just coach in America or Canada or Australia. I've got clients everywhere, right? All over, the UK and Europe and the Middle East and Asia, Australia, New Zealand, right? And I want to really remind people that there are 6 stages of grief, right? And I think if we really understand that, you don't want to make yourself feel bad for feeling sad or feeling frustrated or feeling angry. Those emotions are meant to serve you. That's part of the human condition, right? But if you choose to stay in those emotions long-term, how are you ever going to get up, dust yourself off, and keep building for your beautiful future? So I think if I run through these 6 stages of grief, it'll help people really look at their journey over the last couple of months, or maybe the last several years, or maybe the last several decades, and have a little bit more perspective around that. May I do that now, Rafi?
Well.
All right. Thank you. So guys, we are all going to navigate grief. We're all going to navigate stuff we don't like. right? There are wars, there are, deaths, there are, people being diagnosed with cancer or heart disease. Some people are going to die in a traffic accident. It's terrible, and I don't wish that on anybody. So anytime that this adversity comes up, there's really 6 things that we're trying to navigate. And I want you to just get a sense of what you're going through so that you don't make it good or bad, right or wrong, but you embrace it such that you're aware of what you're going to do with it. And the very first stage of grief is what we call shock, right? Shock is where you just are absolutely, looking around going, what's happening here? And the mind and the body is going into this crazy physiological uncertainty of everything that's happening around you. And it's natural. Doesn't matter if it's you or me or anyone else. We go into stage 1, which is shock. From shock, we go to stage 2, which is denial. And we start to go, this isn't happening, or this can't be happening, or this is affecting everyone. This is terrible. So we literally go quickly from shock to denial. That takes us into stage 3, which is anger. And we get angry and we're going, why is this happening? And why are these bad people doing this? And what do they think they are? We're lovable human beings and we have our rights and freedoms as well. So we literally go from shock to denial to anger. And I think everyone that's listening is probably following along, in this path so far, because once we're done stage 3, we go to stage 4, which is questioning. And we spend a lot of time in questioning where we're going, why is this happening? Why is this happening now? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to my spouse, my beautiful children, my parents, my siblings, my neighbors, my community? And so we literally will cycle through shock, denial, anger, and questioning as the first 4 of the 6 stages. Because I'm telling you, it's not for the faint of heart, and my heart breaks for you people as we see what's going on from afar. And I know that you're all trying to navigate these things, because once you go through that shock, that denial, that anger, that questioning, and you really get bottled up in it, you start to go into stage 5, which is depression. And depression is natural, where you just don't think that it's ever going to change. You just don't think you're going to win. You just don't think that there's a way out. You just don't think it's going to get any better, and this is going to be as good as it gets. And, whatever comes to mind. And I'm telling you that that's a very, very dangerous place. It's a place we will all go, but it's a very dangerous place if you stay there in your mind. It's natural, but I'm going to give you the formula to break out of that in just a minute, because once you have that shock, denial, right? The anger, the questioning, the depression, there is a 6th thing. And it's a thing that's called acceptance and healing. Not that you agree with what's going on, but that you see it as it is, but not worse than it is. You're still alive. You're still, trying to figure it out. You're trying to protect your family, trying to protect your kids, trying to protect your homes, trying to protect your communities. But you also have to remember that the universe is testing you right now to see how strong you are. The universe is testing you right now to see if you're going to, join forces with the Raffis and the Trevor to condition this mindset and not be taken out by what's happening to you, but to really step into stage 6. And you know what? I'm going to fight. I'm going to get up. I'm going to dust myself off. I'm going to do whatever I need to do, because I believe, that there's a better life waiting for me, right? Whether that's through listening to podcasts, reading books, reading biographies of other people that have been through hell and back. There's people that have been through, crazy things in their early years of life, their middle years of life, their adult years of life. And I'm telling you, it's not for the faint of heart, but I do believe that for the people that are committed, there's always a way. So as we, navigate the shock, the denial, the anger, the questioning, the depression, I also believe that, once that you see it as it is and you get up, there is the possibility that tomorrow could be better than today was, or today was better than yesterday was. And so as we get ready to give them what I call the most powerful 4-step process to navigate and get them into stage 6, any comments or thoughts or reflections on those 6 stages of grief?
Yeah, I'm very curious to hear how you can do it. How can we help people get that very fast? Because eventually you can start 10 years on that, right? Or 5 years, or you can do it in a month, right?
That's it.
So how do you move from that stage? Or can you even, skip a stage?
Well, absolutely. You can literally take what I'm about to share and apply it anytime, right? Because there's 4 words that people need to write down, and I'm going to give them to you in English, right? But there's 4 words you want to write down that are going to help people go from where they are to stage 6, right? And navigate all of those things in between. And all 4 of these words, Rafi, you're familiar with them because we talked about them when we met in person, start with the letter S, as in superhero. And that's what I want people to remember is remember the letter S as in Superman, Superwoman, superhero. And it doesn't matter how old you are, you know, what your background is, whether you're male or female, whether you're old or young, these 4 S words apply to everybody on the planet. And once you start to own what they are, you can start to transition out of any valley and start climbing up the peak of the mountain again. And those 4 words are your state, your story, your standards, and your strategy. So I'm going to say it again. It's your state, which is your mindset and how you think and what you focus on. It's your story, which is your identity. I mean, are you going to be a victim or are you going to choose to be a victor on your way to victory? Because whatever story you tell yourself, that's going to be your reality. The third one is your standards. Are you just going to shut down and play small? Or are you going to get up? Are you going to, listen to these podcasts, read books, find that way to put your capital to work? Because for the people that want to play life at a higher level, you've got to raise your standards. You've got to raise the bar because that's going to dictate how the 4th S plays out, which is your strategy. And your strategy is nothing more than having a recipe, a roadmap, or a blueprint that takes you from where you are right now to where you want to be. And you don't need to know how you're going to do that. You just need to know who you need to be, why you want to do it. Because if your identity and your passion and your belief systems and everything else starts to shift, the how will present itself. Or Rafi will give you a blueprint, or Trevor will give you a roadmap, right? So at the end of the day, I'm going to break down these 4 S's in detail because this is where the rubber meets the road, Rafi. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, and I think it's right. Even if you are not in a chaos mode right now, even if you are in a regular days, right?
That's it. Absolutely. Doesn't matter where you are. This is for everyone, and it's universal. And the very first S then is your state. So let's unpack that because your state is really made up of 3 things. Your state is made up of, number 1, your physiology. That's how you're showing up in your mind and in your body right now. The second thing is your focus, because where focus goes, energy flows. And the third thing is your language. And your language is really your internal voice and what you say to yourself internally and what you say out loud. So let's start with physiology, because that's the first one where if you're down or if you're angry or if you're frustrated or if you're tired, I bet your body's in contraction. I bet your head is down. Your shoulders are down. You're talking really, really tightly, right? And so you never want to make a life-changing decision when you're in a bad physiology. You got to get up. You got to move. You got to hydrate, right? You might have to put on music. You might have to do some prayer. You might have to look into the eyes of your beautiful children and see that they are the future. But you never, ever want to do this 4S process without engaging in a stronger physiology. For me, I'll put on my favorite music. I'll listen to a podcast. I'll read a chapter of a great book. I'll do something very inspiring, and I'll get myself geared up to really then move to the second part of the state management, which is your focus. Because I said where focus goes, energy flows. And Rafi, most people are focused on what they don't want, right? They're focused over here with what they don't want. I don't want trouble. I don't want to lose money. I don't want my house to go missing. I don't want my children this. And it's okay to understand what you don't want, but you can't focus on it. You got to shift over here and start to focus on what you do want, right? I want safety. I want love. I want investment opportunities. I want to do something great for the community. Because again, our brains are really made up of really 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Now get your head around that. Every one of our brains has roughly 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And 95% of those thoughts are subconscious, right? Which means below the consciousness. So if all our subconscious is focused on is negativity, lack of safety, I can't invest right now, there's too much craziness going on, my wife doesn't understand me, my husband doesn't understand me, my kids are scared, right? It's really hard, but you've got to make the shift to start saying, all right, I'm going to focus on what I don't want and get clear on what it is, but then I've got to make the shift and start focusing on what I do want to move towards. Okay. We call that leaving the disempowering focus and having empowering focus. And then the third and final part of your state is really your language, right? Because I'm telling you guys, what you say to yourself internally or what you say out loud is going to drive your behavior. So if you're always saying things negatively, or you're seeing things and sharing it with your family in a negative way, or if you're seeing things as, I can't even think of investing in real estate when there's all this craziness going on around us, I get that, right? But ultimately, if you say things like, I can't, or I shouldn't, or maybe, or ought to, or tomorrow I will, those are weak forms of commitment versus saying, you know what? I see things as they are, but I'm not going to be defeated by them. I'm going to get up there and take intelligent and inspired action and do the things that I need to do for myself, my spouse, my kids, my family. Because again, your state is really a focus, a language and movement and breath and hydration and every single thing that gives you the competitive edge to start moving towards the other three S's. So I'll let you comment on that, but I'll recap it. State management is really your physiology, your focus, and using empowering language. What do you think, Rafi?
Amazing. I think every time you say that, I'm trying to see where I am on that. But I always say the words you are using are very important. So
that's it. Absolutely.
Really yeah.
It's like my wife, Lisa, says, she says, your word is your wand, right? And what you say, goes out like a radio station. Like if we're broadcasting like a radio station, that radio station, has a transmitter and a receiver. So whenever we talk, it's like we're a radio station broadcasting music, and we believe that other people pick up on our frequencies, our vibrations, and all of that stuff. So you got to be very careful with your physiology, your focus, and your language. And that takes us to number 2, which is your story. And I'm telling you, Rafi, you know this as well as anyone else, that this is the biggest, I believe, opportunity for people to write the story they want versus live in the story that your default system or your gremlins or saboteurs or, the newspaper says is going to be your story. This is the biggest opportunity to make what I call the shift. And I'll go back and say it, that we only have 2 stories we can really live in, right? The first one is we're going to be a victim to what's going on around us, or we've got to get out of victim modality and choose to be a victor. And it's not easy, but it's really where you understand that, you've got to really shift your thoughts. You've got to shift your thinking. You've got to shift your emotions. And shifting emotions means that you're going to feel the feelings of discouragement or pessimism or fear or doubt or worry, because those are natural, but you also have access to shifting to things like courage or possibility or gamification or optimism. Because for every negative emotion that drives our behavior, there's also a positive emotion that can pull us forward. For me, when I was down and out and going through my challenges, not to mention, all the other trials and tribulations of life, I lived in what I call a negative emotional home. I was angry, frustrated, pissed off. I was always going, why is everything happening, to me the way it is? And I'd even ask, why is God doing this to me? Or why is the universe doing this to me? Or whatever your beliefs are. And I really lived in a negative story. I really felt that I would never get up. I would never get ahead. I was going to be broke. I was going to be faced with these, challenges for the rest of my life. And that wasn't the real me. That was my inner critic. That was my saboteur. That was my little devil that sat on my shoulder saying that I wasn't enough. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't educated enough. I wasn't tall enough. I wasn't good looking enough. And I really, really felt that that was my destiny. I was just going to eke out a living. And that's when coaching changed my life, because my coach said, you are enough. You are lovable. You have a brain. The brain is capable of doing so many things. And you've got to really start to rewrite that story. And you've got to tell yourself that story every day and really step out of the negative emotional homes and into better emotional homes like courage, like faith, like optimism, like gamification. Because I'm telling you, and if we dumb this down, Rafi, your either story is going to be you're focused on fear, or you've got to choose to focus with faith, right? Because either one of them is going to drive your behavior. And I focused on fear at the time. And the minute that I started to find even a little bit of faith, a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, that's when things started to shift for me. And I started to really realize that, it's not what happens to me. It's really what happens for me to figure out what I want my, story to be over the next year, 2, 3, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years or more. But the only way we can shift our story is to start by shifting our state, right? Because our physiology, our focus, and our language is definitely paramount to us rewriting a better story. So that's number 2. And before we go to 3 or 4, I'll let you reflect on the story, Rafi.
No, I like it. When I had a few struggle last year on my last deal. I remember I was trying to get the deal to the end, 8 months. I had so many extensions. Every time I was about to lose, I was fighting. And 8 o'clock at night, before and tomorrow I need to close. 8 o'clock, I got a message that the buyers are out. And I was crying. I was saying, oh my God, I don't believe that now, last minute. And I had nobody to talk to. And I said to myself, after I would cry, no, I'm going to fight and I will do it. I will find a way. And once I did it, I started looking for a solution and I closed the deal just because of that.
Wow.
I could have quit, but I said, that's the story.
Yeah, kudos to you, my friend, because that's really where you said, you know what, for the committed, there's always a way. But if you let your gremlins or your saboteurs say, okay, it's over, this is it, I knew it wasn't going to work, it never works for me, it's just not true, right? You've got to make that shift because there's something called the law of polarity. And the law of polarity is like the law of gravity. I mean, if you jump off the roof of a house, you're going to go down, right? Well, the law of polarity decrees that you can't have one thing on this planet without the polar opposite being true, right? So if we said, you can't have day without night, you can't have black without white, you can't have masculine energy without feminine energy, you can't have the North Pole without the South Pole. Well, what does that got to do with real estate, or what does that got to do with this? Well, it means that you can't have the fears that you've got without the potential success also being available, right? And I'll give you what I call the 3 biggest modalities of fear. Because really, if I really make this simple for the listener, there's only 3 fears. The number 1 is the fear of failure, or if I try, I could fail. Number 2 is the fear of criticism or rejection, or people not liking your idea or thinking, oh my gosh, you're investing in real estate, that's risky, right? Or somebody will tell you that and you'll stop in your tracks. So if we got the fear of fear itself or failing, the fear of criticism or rejection. Number 3 is the fear of not being worthy. I'm not worthy to invest in real estate. I'm not worthy to find another buyer. I'm not worthy to find the investor, which is all a bunch of BS. And you know what BS stands for in my world? It stands for your belief system. Yeah. Because if you flip that 180 degrees and you bring the law of polarity in, if I try, I could fail becomes, well, if I try, I could succeed. Wow. Or number 2, people might not like your idea or they might reject you. Well, the polar opposite of that is they could go, oh my God, Rafi, I love this idea. I want to invest alongside of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the opportunity. Or number 3, that whole thing around I'm not worthy. Let me tell all of you that abundance is your birthright. You've got just as much opportunity to go out there as Rafi, as Trevor, and some of the other people that are listening to this show and be defiantly committed to your outcomes. So if you embrace that law of polarity when you're living in a certain state or in a certain story, Rafi, this is where we can start to shift the way this 3-pound mass between our ears called our brain works and start to see through a different lens. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. So,
beautiful.
So you have, so just to recap, so you have, you said you have I forgot the name. Maybe you recap. It's better.
So that was the state, right?
Yeah,
Which is your physiology, your focus, and your language. Your story is whatever you tell yourself, whatever your narrative is, and whether you're going to stay as a victim or you choose to be a victor on your way to victory, right? And remember to bring in the law of polarity, because again, you can't have fear of failure, fear of criticism, fear of not being worthy without the polar opposite being you could be successful. You could get a bunch of people around you cheerleading and championing you. And I'm telling you guys again, abundance is your birthright. Abundance is your birthright. So again, at the end of the day, those are the first two S's, which then takes us to S number 3, which is your standards. And your standards is really the level you commit to play at. It's really, are you going to, play small because other people are poking you and there's craziness going on? Or are you going to get up, dust yourself off, raise your bar, and, choose a higher standard, to listen to this podcast regularly, to read the books, to find the mentors, to work with coaches, to get into masterminds and groups of like-minded people, because I truly believe that we are all better together. But if you don't raise your standards, right, you're never, ever going to be, do, and have everything that you could if you kept your standards low. It's just like, brushing your teeth. If you brush your teeth every day, that's a standard. If you read to your children, every night, that's a standard. If you put your phone down and you turn your TV off and you have family meetings and play games or tell stories, that's a standard. But there's a standard to real estate investing. There's a standard to understanding terminology. There's a standard of really, being careful not to listen to what the media says, because remember, the media's job is to make you have a reaction. It's to poke you. It's to put fear in you. And rightfully so, because we got a lot of craziness going on. But it can't be your only standard. You have to find inspiration. You've got to pray. You've got to journal. You've got to meditate. You've got to, really do some self-care, because if you don't take care of yourself, guys, nobody's going to do it for you. So you want to check in and do what I call a personal audit on your standards right now. Because let's say that we ranked your standards on a scale of 1 to 10, and 1 would be low and 10 would be, I hold myself to a really high standard. You got to really ask yourself, if you're playing at a 4 or a 5, what's preventing you from getting to a 6 or a 7? If you're already at a 6 or a 7, what's preventing you from going up to an 8 or even tickling 9? And I don't think we all need to get to 10. I'm certainly not a 10. You're not a 10, right? So don't think there's perfection here. But I'm telling you, when you choose a better state, when you choose a better story, what do you think typically happens to you wanting to work on your standards? It goes up. And we're able to bump those numbers up consistently by doing a lot of those things, like I said, prayer, meditation, journaling, finding tribes, groups, masterminds, listening to podcasts, reading inspirational books, all of that. So I'll throw it over to you, Rafi. How would you speak to your own, ownership of your standards? Because I know you have high standards. How would you speak to that for yourself?
I think I'm 8, but I know what I found when you said that we as human, we know what we want our standard to be, right? We are not working according to that, but we know what our standard we wanted them to be. Even let's say, for example, some people want to be more athletic and they don't do that, right? So they know they need to push them. So
that's it. Yeah. And a lot of people will say, but Trevor, I don't have time. I don't have time to read the books. I don't have time to listen to podcasts. I don't have time to work out at the gym. I don't have time to spend with my family. I'm trying to protect things and just hold it together. I get it. I hear you. I see you and I feel you. But for things to change, you must change. And for things to change, you must be the one that changes them. That is, even if you don't listen to every podcast Rafi's got, listen to this one or re-listen to this one again and take notes. Share this podcast with a family member. Share this podcast with a friend. Share this with somebody you love, because I really believe that the secret to living is giving. And you got to start with yourself, right? If you're not finding time to journal, I'm not talking about an hour or 30 minutes or 15 minutes. You could journal for 5 minutes a day and just write down your thoughts and get them out of your head and on paper. Because guys, it's never, ever what you do that's important. It's your commitment to continually do it, just like the compound effect, right? If I go to the gym one time and I lift weights and I go, well, thank God that's over, right? I'm fooling myself. I got to go back to the gym and lift those weights and build the muscle over and over and over again. And then maybe over a week or 2 weeks or a month, now I'm feeling fit, vital, and healthy. So don't think that this is a one-time thing, but really do that personal audit and check in with your standards, but don't make it good or bad, right or wrong. Don't blame, shame, or justify, but ask yourself, what could I do to go from whatever number you're at to a higher number? And to do that, this is where we bring in the most beautiful fourth S, Rafi, which is called your strategy, right? Your strategy. Now, here's the caveat. You never want to work on a strategy without first checking in with your state, your story, and your standards. Because if you're not in a good state or not telling yourself a good story or not, raising the bar in your standards, you're not going to be as effective with the strategy as you could be if, you were in a better place. Because a strategy is nothing more than having a recipe, a roadmap, a blueprint, a GPS that helps you go from where you are to where you want to be. And the very first thing is, number one, you've got to know your outcome. You got to know where you are right now, and then you got to know where you want to be. And that could be in the next month. That could be in the next 6 months. That could be in the next year. That could be in the next 3 or 5 years or 10 years. Whatever that time frame is for you, you want to picture it on the screen of your mind. You want to get familiar with it. You want to feel the feelings of already having it. So if that's buying real estate, if that's, finding a soulmate, getting in better shape, being a better parent, feel those feelings ahead of the occurrence, because we want the brain to really lock on the feeling of what that outcome is, a feeling of what that result is, a feeling of how will I feel when I put my hand on my heart and go, thank you, thank you, thank you. I've achieved my outcome. So number one, know where you're at and know where you want to go. Step two is, why do you want it? Why do you want it? And Rafi, this is the step most people skip. They go, Trevor, I just want this and show me how to do it. And I'm telling you, that's a recipe for disaster, because if you don't have a big enough reason why you want what you want over the next 6 months, the next year, the next 3, 5, 10 years, you're fooling yourself. Because I'll tell you this, when times get tough, when other stuff happens, when you're tired, when the deal falls apart, you're going to need something that literally reminds you of why you're doing it in the first place. So number one is you got to know where you're at and where you want to go and feel it. Number two is you've got to come up with at least 3, 4, or 5 or more purpose statements on why you're going to do it no matter what. So that then takes us to the third and final part, which is the map or the massive action plan. That is, what do you need to do that if you got it out of your head and wrote it down on a piece of paper or on a Word document or on a tablet, what are all the things that you could start doing to help you go from where you are to where you want to be? Do you need to talk to Rafi? Do you need to hire a coach? Do you need to read a book? Do you need to find a mentor? Do you need to, listen to podcasts or watch some YouTube shorts? Whatever it is, again, for the committed, there's always somebody ahead of you that's done what it is you're trying to do. So the good news is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You need to talk to people like Rafi, talk to people like Trevor, find other people that are already further along in their journey of what lights you up, right? If you want to open a business, if you want to invest in real estate, if you want to, start a side hustle, maybe you want to learn how to create an e-commerce company. I mean, there's so many different things you could do, but I love real estate because real estate is really the greatest wealth vehicle that has made most people very, very, very wealthy. And again, you don't have to reinvent it. You just need to activate it and get into it. So if we know where we're at and where we want to go, we know why we want it, and then we start to write down all the things that we could do to go after it, then we can, prioritize that map. We can timestamp it and carve out some time in our calendar to work on it. We can leverage other people like Rafi or Trevor or Rich Dad, Poor Dad or Think and Grow Rich or a mastermind. And then you've got to do, the next thing, which is go out there and execute it. And execute it means taking intelligent and inspired action. And I love intelligent, inspired action because intelligent means smart and inspired means not because you have to, but because you get to. And so let's recap the fourth S. That is your strategy. You got to know where you're at and where you want to go. You got to know why you want it. You got to write down all the things that can help you move in that direction. You got to prioritize it, timestamp it, get other people to help you with it, and then execute on it. And then obviously you got to measure your progress. Are you on track or are you off track? Are you making headway or are you not? And if you're making headway, keep going. And if you're not, change your approach and try something else. But I'm telling you, Rafi, all four of these S words are what I use every single day. And I believe that it's what most people can leverage now to go further faster and turn what I call decades into days. I don't want it to take 10 years for you guys to figure it out. I want you to get into a resourceful state. I want you to own a better story. I want you to raise your standards. And I want you to execute on this strategic step process that's going to explode your results, make you more happy, give you more money, give you more time, give you more freedom. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what we all want. Because it all rates back to the 6 human needs. If you do that, and we go all the way back to the start of the show, I said you need more certainty. To get more certainty, you need to embrace variety. You need more significance. You need more connection. You need more growth, and you need more contribution. Because I'm telling you, Rafi, at the end of the day, all of this leads to higher levels of fulfillment. And that's really what we all want. We just want to be loved. We want to be happy. We want to feel safe. We want to be part of something like a real estate community. And we just want to do the best job we can, where the 4 S's are your ticket to helping you do that. So, Rafi, I'll throw it back to you for reflection.
First, I think I'm going to listen to that again. Although I think I heard a few of that last time we met,
yes.
But I would need to recap. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about the strategy, you said you want to imagine or write yourself the outcome you want to achieve.
Yep.
Can you imagine 2 outcomes on 2 separate subjects, for example?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I like to have what my primary result or outcome is, and then maybe a secondary one, right? Because I'm here to remind people that we're all meant to go big. And so I don't want you to play small and set little goals. Little goals are okay. But for people that know that we're here for a short time and they really want to go after, bigger goals, I always say, why shoot for the moon when you could shoot for the stars, right? And if you land on the moon, that's pretty good too. But I like to create stretch goals for myself. I like to create stretch goals for my client that really gets them fired up and excited about it, but also makes them a little bit uncertain or nervous. And then it's really channeling that uncertainty or feeling nervous or, oh my God, what if it doesn't work out? Or what if I lose my money? Or, what if the economy shifts? Or what if interest rates stay high? To tell you that, change is a constant and what goes up must come down. And that, we really have what I call a reason for every season. And right now, you and your people, and a lot of people on the planet for that matter, and what we call are in winter. And winter is literally crazy right now, even in America, where, the price of gas, the price of groceries, the costs of rent, right? The interest rates, all that has changed versus what it was looking like the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 years. So we've gone really from a real, fun economic summer for many years to what now we're calling an economic winter. And what typically happens in winter is some people freeze to death. Some people, can't, plant a plant or a seed in the ground. It's too cold. Whereas other people, and a lot of people see that as a negative, where other people put on, warmer clothes and they go out there and build snowmen and build a snow fort and have a ski trip and go snowboarding. So don't make the season wrong, because if you go back to what I said at the beginning of the call, it's not the winds of change that blow on you that will determine where you end up. It's you embracing that there's a reason for every season. And if you set a better sail, when we come out of the economic winter and into spring and then back into summer, you're going to be very happy that you invested in real estate. You're going to be very happy you read real estate books. You're going to be very happy you've listened to all of these podcasts about how to handle adversity, and literally come out of it, in a much better way. Because what happens to us happens to all of us. And we all go through the season, right? And as I always say, as we navigate these seasons, some people are going to, make it happen. Some people are going to let it happen. And some people are going to ask what happened, right? And they're not even going to know that they wasted the winter when they could have been preparing for spring or summer. So I'll throw that back to you, Rafi. Do you understand that there's a reason for every season? And even though it might be an economic winter or, feel like winter for you folks, that, that season can't last forever, where the universe always changes winter to spring and spring to summer at some point. What do you think of that?
So that's the story you tell yourself. It's exactly going back to that, right? The story.
Well, you're spot on, my brother, because it's been that way for thousands of years. If we go back in time, really, because there's three modalities of time. We've got our past, we've got our present, and we've got our future, right? But if we go back and look at, where did people live 100 years ago or 200 years or 500 years, 1,000 years? There were always challenges. There was always adversity. Believe it or not, there were always wars. There were people fighting for thousands of years over different lands and different territories and different religions and different ethnicities. It's crazy. But I'm telling you, you can't only live in the past, because the past doesn't predict the future, right? The only thing that your past is going to do is be a reference point. And I'm not saying make it go away, because we've all got a past, but don't focus only here, focus here, because this is the present, this is today. And it's in this moment, in this presence, that we create what I call the predictable future, right? It's almost like if we change our state, change our story, change our standards, and have a strategy in this moment using those 4 S's, we can start to see where we could be in 6 months or in a year or in 3 years or in 5 years. But it's going to take you stepping out of your lower self that's only focused on the past and into what I call your higher self, which knows that your best days are yet to come. You got to create it from here to go here. Does that make sense, Rafi?
Very, very much, very much. Listen, Coach Trevor, that was an amazing podcast. I will let maybe people want to ask a few questions, maybe a few minutes, because it's live. So anyone on the show right now can write questions. And if not, we will finish. But listen, it was an amazing. I'm going to listen to it again for sure. So you are now in Australia, right? Are you coaching there right now? Or
yeah, it's a unique opportunity where, my wife, Lisa, and I, we travel the world helping people. So we're both from Canada, and I spend a lot of time in the United States, coaching a lot of my clients. And we have properties, in places like Texas and Florida and the Carolinas and Nashville and Colorado, so I'm often in the US, but I also love, and my wife loves Australia. So we typically travel, from Canada to the US to Australia. We'll be over in the UK. I've got clients that, I'm teaching in Bali right now, and we'll be in Mallorca next year. So we really work hard and play hard in real estate, but we are also really big believers that the secret to living is giving. And if you felt how powerful this information is today, I encourage all people to re-listen to this episode. I encourage them to take notes. I encourage them to do what I call, the Coach T challenge, which is own a better state, story, standard, and strategy till the end of the year. And watch what happens. Watch the shifts you start to make internally that helps your decisions to execute externally even better. And that's really what my wife and I do. Her name is Lisa. She's a phenomenal coach. She's a mastermind leader. And we just love traveling this beautiful planet, helping people navigate all the craziness that goes on in their careers, their finances, their health, their relationships, their real estate, their W-2 jobs, their businesses, their children. And again, the world has sped up so fast, Rafi. We've got so much coming at us. It's hard to navigate feeling alone. And that's why I say you got to find a community. You got to find a coach. You got to find a tribe. You got to find a mastermind. You got to find, a group of like-minded individuals that isn't just wanting to choose vanilla or chocolate or strawberry ice cream, but sees all of the flavors that are available for us to go out there and live our best life. right? And again, I'm at that stage of my life, Rafi, where I've now done over 40,000 coaching sessions. Wow. Now get your head around that. 40,000 coaching sessions. You'll hear my voice is raspy, but it's my passion. It's my mission. I can't imagine doing anything else other than helping other people navigate business, life, and real estate. And so this is what I do regardless of where I am on the planet. Does that make sense?
Amazing. You know, I tell people that, you know, the world deserves you. People, each one of us, the world deserve you to forgive it. So it's amazing how powerful, how many people you are reaching out and helping. It's amazing.
Thank you.
And people are asking if there is this recorded. So yes, it's going to be on YouTube. If somebody want to follow you, I don't know, you have a book or anything that they can, you know, have, keep hearing you and maybe your podcast, or can you share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, thank you for having me on, and we'll answer some of these questions. I see we've got a lot of, you know, information in the chat box here. And for people that want to, you know, find out a little bit more about me, the best way to go and find me is on my website. You can go to trevormcgregor.com. That's TrevorMcGregor.com, and read a little bit more about my background. You'll see some of the clients that I've served. There's some, you know, courses you can buy on my website. I've got my program called Rich Beyond Belief. It is an 8-week audio program. It costs less than a really nice dinner out, and you're going to get 8 solid weeks of the best coaching and, you know, training materials that I've got. People absolutely love that. It's a couple $100. And ultimately, you can also find me for free on many, many channels like YouTube, Spotify. I'm on podcasts somewhere in the world at least 2 to 3 times a week. So if you just Google Trevor McGregor, real estate and business coach, you'll find a ton of information and hear me on podcasts all over the planet. And then there's also a place on my website for you to learn a little bit more about how a coaching structure could support you. And I'm going to be launching, again, my own, you know, group coaching program as well in the new year. So for anyone that wants to come in and work with me and work with other like-minded real estate investors, business owners, entrepreneurs, you know, professionals, that might be something they'll check out as well. And you can also find me on LinkedIn and other various social media channels like Facebook.
Amazing. So I already put on the chat for the live session. I'll put your website, and it's going to be on YouTube, on the comments. And people can share, and I suggest people to do that. It's amazing. You've been an amazing interviewer. I'm going to listen to that again for sure. Coach Trevor, thank you very, very much. Very appreciate that. You find the time to help people, and I wish you good luck, and wish you will keep being a given state.
Oh, it's beautiful, Rafi. And I echo that right back to you. I love the work you're doing. And again, I want to give the listener a little bonus here before we wrap up. And that is to really, really embrace these 2 things. Number one is you've got to really own your psychology, right? You've got to really take those 4 S's and don't say, wow, that was a great podcast. Thank you, Rafi and Trevor. But you want to write them down, put them on a Post-it note, put it in your home office, put it on your bathroom mirror. You know, write it down where you'll be reminded consciously or subconsciously to own your state, your story, your standards, and your strategy, and watch what happens. The second thing is I want you to really remember that high performers, or people that are really ready to go to the next level, you know what? They really unleash their hunger and their passion for excellence. So that means when you unleash your passion for, say, real estate or investing, or you're hungry to take your net worth to the next level, or be able to live a certain lifestyle, or be able to provide for your family maybe differently than your parents did for you. For the committed, there's always a way, but you got to dream. You got to remember what's wrong is always available, but so is what's right. And here you are with every opportunity to take things and finish this year strong and step into the next year like you're meant to soar. So for anybody that is defiantly committed to doing that, not interested, but defiantly committed to doing that, I'm telling you, there's no better time to do this work than right now. And thank you again for having me on.
Last sentence, amazing.
Awesome.
Nice wrapping up. Thank you very much, Coach. Appreciate
Thank
that.
you, Rafi. God bless you and everyone else over there. And I hope that we get to talk again soon, and keep up your great work.
Thank you very much. You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Great day.